Star Wars coming back to the big screen, with the way they're kind of restructuring shows and resetting their focus around Disney Plus Star Wars and theatrical Star Wars, it seems like now is as good a time as any as we continue to get more and more Star Wars content that's going to start coming out in 2026 and beyond. Seems like now is as good a time as any to do a Battlefront 3. And I think, I mean, since obviously they stopped support, we've had so many big IPs that have come out. Like The Mandalorian didn't exist back then. That has come out. We got season 7 of the Clone Wars, and Clone Wars just in general post Disney Plus blew up into what it is today, even more so than when it was on Netflix, right? So we had that. Rebels really blew up since then. You have the Andor stuff. You have stuff from Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka, and there's just so many things that have come out from Star Wars since then that you could add into the game, that it kind of makes more sense to, instead of, capitalizing on Battlefront 2 hype and just maybe making another DLC expansion, make a third game and give us that third game. I don't know, Sonic, when you hear about the petition for Battlefront 3, even actors like the actor who played Wilmon getting in on it, getting on the hype of give us Battlefront 3, when you hear that Battlefront 2 is now peaking on Steam, what are your thoughts on a possible Battlefront 3 here in the future?
I mean, I want it, right? Like there was even back in 2020 when it first got released for free for people to play during early COVID and all that. Like it was busy. It really was busy. And it just felt like we were entering a golden age. Like they'd finally fixed so many of their issues, had released so much free content, skins, everything, right? Like it just felt like the game had finally reached its potential. I mean, it started off in the whole loot box misery, right? There's a self-inflicted wound. Even today, it's like the lowest rated comment on Reddit from EA, right? Still is owned because of Battlefront 2, right? There it started off on such a bad foot. And then by late 2019, 2020, it's like people love the game. Obviously not peak popularity, like you said. Movies had just finished. If you didn't like Rise of Skywalker, you definitely weren't coming back for more stuff. But people were enjoying themselves, and especially during early COVID when everybody was gaming and just trying a bunch of different games at that point, it really had a good resurgence. It absolutely did. There still is a known fact that there was like a Ventress and Ahsoka files just waiting to be deployed. Like we could have had those two characters just put out there immediately. Like we didn't need to have anything specifically with, like a map or any sort of game mode. You could have just put that out and people would have been like, yeah, I'm excited. I get to finally play as these characters who, Ahsoka just months later just absolutely elevated to a different level than what she was on Cartoon Network and Netflix. So yeah, it was a real shame, right? When I first heard about that, I was like, this is like the worst thing you could do. Like you could say maybe because of COVID, you have to reprioritize stuff for Battlefield 2042 and all that, but that was a game that turned to be such a waste. And yeah, I mean, I like seeing the peak. Don't get me wrong. Like it's exciting. It's exciting how much PC gaming is absolutely leading this like push, right, for this game to really be revitalized. I know so many people still play with mods, custom servers, everything. Problem is, I think EA is kind of done with Star Wars. Like they have the third Jedi game. They're still continuing support for Outlaws. That Pirates Fortune DLC just came out, and we'll have some walkthroughs of that on the channel up here sooner or later. But besides that, there some of the internal memos, especially with all the petitions, everything going on. Apparently, the internal memos are like, yeah, we're not interested at all in getting back into Battlefront. We're just gonna finish up that Star Wars game, focus on our own IPs and all that. And it's a shame, right? Like, because it seems like it's not just streaming that's been affected. It feels like even video game studios that were kind of using other big film studios as IPs now, that's kind of slipping away. We just heard about like a Black Panther game that just got canceled from the same studio as, the Wonder Woman game and everything. Like it just feels like these mega superhero action IPs are kind of falling off, and like and especially in the expansionary way, it felt like they were going to be for quite a while in the late 2010s. So I'm excited to see people's interest. I hope it at least pushes like EA to be like, you know what, we might not do it, but here, let's give the Battlefront license to somebody else. Only thing is, that's just not something any real company would do, right? Like, I think at this point, Disney and Lucasfilm Games would have to step in and be like, all right, here's like a huge lump sum. Here's the money. You take it, and we get to have the rights. We get to allow another publisher to work on the game. And I mean, it's probably for the best, anyways, if that worked out that way, because EA, for both their Battlefront games, was pretty flawed, right? I think there was flaws in the original Battlefront game, but there's some incredible maps and team play. Battlefront 2 was a little bit more stripped down in that sense, but people love to talk about that campaign, being able to play as all these, heroes and villains. Like, and yeah, it was insane. It was fantastic. It was great tie-ins for Revenge of the Sith. Unfortunately, I guess 3 won't happen. I don't wanna be the doomer here in this chat and this discussion, but it just doesn't seem like, even the most reputable sources on YouTube, like Azatru and Battlefront updates, they're just like, they noticed, but they don't have any real investment. And, you can't really blame them. Like, how if this is like sustained for 3, 4 months, that's one thing. So they need to see that. They need to see like continuous engagement, continuous petitions being signed, just continuous like just shout outs to Battlefront as a game, right? And for that to happen continuously month after month, I mean, that's just not how the media world, the entertainment world works, right? Especially when we've got like movies like Superman, Fantastic Four, Jurassic World Rebirth, like just headlining the next month and a half, 2 months, right? People might be just going out more and doing stuff, might not be gaming as much, right? Assassin's Creed Shadows had all the negative publicity, ends up breaking like the Steam single day, record on, just going gold, going public, and then you don't hear anything else about it, right? Like it seems like just gaming seems to get even more toxic with its publicity. And if you don't have that toxicity driving it forward, and you have stuff like this, which is very positive, it just doesn't match up to it. And that's a shameful part about it. But yeah, man, I want to be able to play as Cassian Andor, right? Like I want to see all his cool suits. I want to see all these characters, Moff Gideon. Like there's so many cool things from Mandalorian. Even if you don't love the storytelling of it, it's perfect for Battlefront because there's just so many cool designs that are just like the late 80s, early 90s evolutions of what they thought was going to happen after episode 6 in canon, right? Like it's
Mhm.
such cool stuff. And being able to play as like a Praetorian Guard sequel versus Mandalorian, like that'd be such a cool thing to be able to switch between all the maps. Like there's some crazy locations, right? Like I'm not saying we need like a Gorman Massacre map, but like there's definitely cool places like Mandalore and everything that we've seen from the animated shows and Bad Batch. I'd love to be able to see some characters like that pop up there. Yeah, I'm not saying books, but maybe some comics like a Dr. Aphra or something. Like, there's so much potential. There's Star Wars has not stopped in the last, 5 years. They've continued throwing out so many characters, if not more, because of the streaming wars. Now that that bubble's burst, you're like, I want to be able to see all this stuff. Like, I want to see a K Vest show up in a game or something, like some interconnectivity, right? But doesn't seem like it'll happen.
Cal
It sucks,
Kestis.
but we'll see it. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, and Cal Kestis too, I think would
Oh
sell a game
man.
if you play
Yeah.
as him. And I think that's a good point because 2025 has been an interesting year for Star Wars in that we're basically getting no more Star Wars content on the film and TV side outside of Visions and another Lego thing this year. Now that Andor's over, so Star Wars, all its big releases, they're already done by the end of May 2025. But that being said, we have seen this resurgence and love for Star Wars that a lot of haters out there and frankly, myself and some of the more positive people around Star Wars as well kind of haven't felt in a long time. That surge of excitement and enthusiasm. And maybe it's not towards the new stuff, although Andor does, for the people who have watched it, does have, such love and such a thriving community, obviously, because it's so good. But I think it really all stems around the Revenge of the Sith re-release, just the
Yeah.
excitement around that and the joy that Star Wars Celebration into Revenge of the Sith re-release, into May the 4th, into Andor finale, like those 4 weeks. I mean, we saw it on our channel and you just see it around the world, this enthusiasm and excitement and joy around Star Wars that doesn't feel like it's been there since maybe Mandalorian season 2, Clone
2.
Wars
Yeah.
season 7 time, maybe feeding into 2021 with some Bad Batch stuff, but it's been a long time since that enthusiasm has been there around some specific Star Wars projects. And now seeing that creep into Battlefront 2, which is a game that, if you just looked at critic reviews because they're all from before EA really fixed the game, you would think is not that great. But if you were around this community like we were, from 2017 all the way through 2020, playing it all the time, it's a fantastic game. It really is. It turned into one of the best Star Wars games ever. And so I'd love to see it get a second life. So one of the things in this article, one of the quotes that this whole thing is built on, this whole movement is built on, is there was a developer who worked at DICE and who worked on this game, still works at DICE, but has moved on to other things. One of the producers of the game, his name is Mats Holmes, who said that they're not working on Battlefront 3 right now, but he says, hear me out, Battlefront 2 remaster for whatever console is in the future and this current console, maybe take 2 to 3 years. They could remaster the game, add some more modes, maybe add a few minor things. he didn't say this, but I'm throwing out there, why not the Ventress and Ahsoka and Padme, all the stuff that people found in the code? Why not just add that stuff in, give it a little bit of a boost, add some Clone Wars stuff. Like I think embracing the nostalgia. This is another tangent, but the prequel stuff is really what made Battlefront 2 explode when they gave us
Yeah.
the full prequel package. When it first came out, it was a little bit of prequel, mostly focused on sequel and original trilogy stuff. When they brought in all that prequel stuff, Geonosis, Camino, all the different classes of clones and droids and all that stuff, that's when this game blew up. And so if they bring in some Clone Wars stuff and some Mandalorian stuff, bring in the stuff that people love the most, make a remaster. He says if you release that in 27 or 28, then you'd have a team that's now dedicated to the remaster of Battlefront 3, people who are now familiar with the game, because let's face it, most of the people who were probably working on Battlefront 2, they were working on it in 2016, 17, 18. They're either probably gone from the company, have higher up positions at a new company, on a different game. So it's a heavy turnover in the video game world. So it's hard to keep that same team unless you're just making sequel after sequel after sequel. He says then you get a team familiar with the game again. There's a laundry list of improvements that they can add and fix, and getting it updated was always on their wish list. Then once it's a success on a remaster, you start working on Battlefront 3 for the next gen console. You have a team familiar with the engine and assets, could really start kicking off and developing a Battlefront 3 in a much shorter time span, which could give us a Battlefront 3 in a 5 to 6 year plan, which sounds pretty awesome. And so if that's the direction they go, I think that would be a great way to do it. I mean, it's kind of crazy just with like digital games now, with the fact that anybody can get a game whenever they want digitally on whether it's PlayStation or Xbox stores or Steam or whatever. It never feels like a game's that old if it still has a player base. But usually in the lifespan of a video game, 8 years would mean, obviously it's not on store shelves anymore. It's just almost forgotten. So if a remaster would make sense to put it back in the store shelves, give it a true definitive edition. Battlefront 2, even though it came out towards the end of the console life, it's truly a mid-generation of PS4, Xbox One video game, which is kind of
Yeah.
crazy. And now we're mid-generation on PS5, right? So we're way beyond the tech that was used to make Battlefront 2. They could do a legit remaster. And even though when I first read that, I was like, I don't feels like Battlefront 2 doesn't need a remaster. They could do a pretty serious remaster, and actually would be pretty awesome. I think they could add a lot of new features, a lot of new mode, a lot of things that would just enhance it enough to make it worth buying. Now, maybe price it at a point that's not $70 or $80. Put it at like that $40, $30 price point, because it obviously is still an 8-year-old game. I think pricing will make or break the success of a remaster like that. But if they price it at $30 and they add a couple extra features, like a battle pass that's exclusive to it, basically, who's to say it wouldn't work? And I think that's something that's definitely worth it. And also, on the video game side as well, not just Battlefront, but memes and all, the Star Wars side of the Fortnite stuff, even though I haven't played it, that's been taken off, right? Like social
Oh,
media,
yeah.
a lot of that stuff. So it shows that there is obviously still significant interest in the Star Wars that people love. And through that, hopefully with this like 1 year off for Star Wars, we can revitalize new Star Wars as something that's exciting as fans continue to grow and have that nostalgia for Star Wars. And I think that nostalgia will grow within this next year, because we ended on such a high with Andor, and we won't really have any more content until then. So here's to hoping. Hello there, Star Wars Lads fans. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was actually a clip from one of our live streams and Q&As. So if you'd like to join us every single Tuesday around 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, make sure you join us. It'll allow you to ask a question that might be turned into a video. Hopefully you join us. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below all of your thoughts on this clip. Thanks for watching, and we will see you all next time.